Hey, Alan Rowland again, and I have a terrible confession to make, and it's one that I don't know if I'm very proud of. But I am a collector. I collect everything. I collect baseball cards, I collect stamps, I collect books, war conflict simulation games, I collect war memorabilia, any item of history I can find, I collect that. Maybe it's an obsession, I really don't know. I guess I got that from my mother, or maybe I got it from my grandfather. Both were collectors, and when my mother passed along my grandfather's collection to me, and I've just kept it up through the years. Now, before I get into my presentation today, I want to tell you about an institution of slavery. That's human bondage. I am very, very much opposed to it. Everybody should be opposed to it. It is a part of our history in this country, and it was wrong. It was a horrible institution here. It existed in our country for many years. You may be surprised with this, but under the Confederate States of America, slavery existed for 4 years. Under the United States of America, slavery existed for 89 years. Under the United Kingdom, that is Great Britain, and when Great Britain controlled much of North America, and we'll find that slavery existed there for 154 years. And nobody really realizes that. At the time of the outbreak of the Civil War, the only places in the Western Hemisphere that still had slavery was United States, you might call that the Confederate States of America, and Cuba and Brazil. But even with that, that is the one thing that the South is remembered most about today, is that of the institution of slavery. And one thing we probably need to recall here, and if you were one of my history students, I would have told you this, that not everyone in the South was a slave owner. In fact, it was probably about 5%, 7%. We just don't know, and it depends on how you interpret, what is the definition of a slave owner. But certainly not everyone in the South was a slave. So what I want to do here is present to you some items that were passed along to me, mostly from my grandfather. Some of these are my own. But I want to pass these along to you. And I want to go to my documents camera here. And these are actual documents here. I've got all of these document protectors. So you may see a little glare on the screen here. There's no wrinkling of these documents at all. The wrinkling comes from just the document protector itself. Now, this is from the year 1861. You probably can't read it very well. You notice there that we have the black background and the white lettering that's on it. It says the state of Alabama, Lawrence County. And what happens here is that when the Civil War broke out and the Confederate States declared their secession and their own Confederate States of America, for many in the South, they renounced their citizenship to the United States and they proclaimed their citizenship to the Confederate States of America. And that's what you're reading right here. Now, you probably can't read that very clearly, and you may not even can read this very clearly, but it just tells you here that the state of Alabama, Lawrence County, I do solemnly swear that I will and do solemnly, I cannot read this, I'm sorry here, but it just, this individual, W.H. Workshire in Lawrence County, is just denouncing his citizenship as a United States citizen and proclaiming his loyalty to the South. All right, so let me move on to a couple more things here. Back to our institution of slavery. This is an actual document. This is an authentic document here. And you can imagine this if you were a slave owner and you wanted to sell your slaves, and the person that was purchasing the slave was 2 states away or 300 miles away in Mobile, Alabama, something like that, then very often you would hire an express company. In this case, it's a Southern Express company, to transport your slave. I mean, it was just like a transfer line that would take your slave down to the slave auction center and sell that individual here. And that's what this one is for right here. And let's move on. I have some more here. When I first got this document, I almost fainted, Let me try to move it closer so you can read this. This is in the state of South Carolina. No, all men by these presents. And if you look at the name there, it says Charles Coatsworth Pinckney. And I will tell you, the first time I saw this, I almost just fainted. I thought I have got an original article and signed in the same handwriting of one of the original founding fathers of our country here, Charles Coatsworth Pinckney. And when I put it together, the dates together on this, and this is dated 1863, it was not the founding father, Charles Coatsworth Pinckney, but it was his son, Charles Coates were painting. Nevertheless, it's a very valuable document here. And what it is, he's settling an estate here, and 4 slaves here. You can look at their names; they're right here. And 4 slaves here. We had Lucky and Sam and Thomas and Amelia, and it's transferring these for a sum of $4,200. These 4 individuals here to another individual. If you do the math on that, just divide 4 into 4,200, and you can see what the math is on that. Here's another one here. This is just a simple, and these are all authentic, by the way. This is just a simple bill of sale here, and it's dated, I think, in 1855 here for $1,062, I believe it is, and one individual, a slave by the name of Andrew. All right, so moving on. Here's another, just a handwritten bill of sale here, state of South Carolina, and it's for one female slave, Mary, age 22, and the selling price here is $525, which in 1855, that was a little bit below average here. Normal slave prices, around 1860 anyway, were about $1,500, maybe even a little bit more than that. All right. Now, let's move away from that delicate subject here. And the Civil War would come to a close, and it came to close in April of 1865. And what takes place with these individuals, that have been surrendered? And in this case, there's some soldiers here that were parts of the Army of Northern Virginia. That's Robert E. Lee's army, which surrendered in early parts of April in 1865. It's Lynchburg, Virginia, if you can read that. And it just, what these are parole slips. So if the Army surrendered, and these soldiers had to go home, and they were going back to Alabama, wherever it was anyway, they were given a parole slip. At first you had to declare an oath of allegiance to the United States of America. But anyway, you had to have these parole slips. You just put it in your pocket. And if you had northern patrols, a northern platoon or company that halted you on the road and questioned you, you could pull out this parole paper and just say, this is where, I've announced my citizenship or loyalty to the United States. But anyway, those are 2 of those documents right there. Now, here is a oath of allegiance here to the United States, where this individual here from South Carolina is just claiming that he will no longer take up arms against the United States of America, and that he will be a peaceful citizen and just go on home. All right. So anyway, I find that to be kind of interesting. Here's one also similar here, the oath of allegiance here, and I can't read this upside down. My print's too small for my eyes anyway. Just an oath of allegiance here, which hopefully will get you through the northern lines and back home. Okay. Now, often what you had to do, if you were a Southerner anyway, you did not have the pension system like the northern soldiers in the Northern Army did. And so for many of these individuals, if you move on to about the year 1900, 1910, in this case 1912, I believe it is, and you had to, many of these individuals would apply for a state pension. They were veterans from the Confederate Army, and they were applying for a pension. But what this required is you had to have somebody to authenticate this, to document that you were actually in a unit. So this individual here is making an application. His name is James Bernie Gilmore, making an application and vouching for him. Honest to goodness here, this was my great-great-grandfather, William Thomas Patillo. You can see his name here at the top. I found several of his handwritten articles that were in state archives. This was one of them anyway, in which he's just making a statement about this Gilmore individual, that yes, he served in the 54th Alabama. My great-great-grandfather was the first lieutenant in the 54th Alabama, and he's just saying, I knew him, he did serve in the Confederacy, and the guy will get his pension. And that's kind of interesting here. And I hope, I've got several articles about my great-grandfather, and his photographs of he and his wife, and at times, like a diary recollection of his times in the Confederate Army. And I think I'll make a presentation on that too. All right. Now I want to show you something else here, and this is kind of interesting. This is I have it folded here because it's too large, for this document protector. But it says Confederate States of America, and this is a loan $1,000. And what this is like a savings bond. And notice it tells you right here that 7% interest. You can see the likeness here, Stonewall Jackson. This is dated in 1863. So you figure 1863, we're 2024 now. And you can see on the back here that all of these, I got it upside down, all of these little ticket here, they're redemption coupons or tickets, for getting paid for loaning that money to the Confederacy here. And can you only imagine this if this was valid today? And you can calculate the dates there from 1863 to 2024. $1,000 bonds, 7% interest right there for all that number of years. I would be a wealthy, wealthy individual. All right, now I want to share some things with you, and I hope this doesn't get too redundant here. This is Confederate money. This is all actual Confederate money. This is not Cracker Barrel stuff, my friends. This is real Confederate money. Ironically, during the Civil War, inflation was so high in the South. I mean, it's unbelievable. It's 9,000% inflation. But a $100 bill by the end of the war was worth $1. Today, as a collector's item, this $100 bill is priceless. I mean, Confederate money, if you have the real stuff, you need to hold on to it. Or you can donate it to me if you'd like to do that. But anyway, looking at all of these, and if you're an expert in looking at old currency here, you can see all the neat designs here, and all of that has bearing on this. But if you have an interest in it. Now, these are all crisp pieces of currency. It may look like they're wrinkled here just from the documents protector and the way the light's reflecting on it, but they are in great condition. None of these have any markings on the back side here, but you'll find that some of the Confederate currency actually does. Here we go. Like I said, I've got a number of these just to pass it along to you here. Confederate States of America, $100 bill. There's a $20 bill. There's a $20 bill down there. Here's more here. All of the same here. $10 bills for the Confederacy, $10 Confederate note right there. And I surely hope that my daughter doesn't sell these in a yard sale when I'm no longer here. These are very, very valuable. Hope she keeps up with this, passes this along. Anyway, you can see various individuals, like a Treasury official for the Confederacy. Popular one here showing two individuals at the top here. A popular note there. That is on a $10 piece. Here's a $5 here. Here's another $5 down there. All right. On we go. Just more of the same here. Okay. And we can see that the top one there has a $1 bill. See, the Confederate States had very little currency. Excuse me, let me restate that. They had very little metal money. I'm talking about coinage, and they resorted just to using paper money. It was a lot easier there because you just didn't have the coins. You didn't have the metal for the coins that was used for other purposes. All right, here's some others here. Okay, Confederate States of America. There. For $20, $10, down at the bottom there, we have a $1 there. Okay. Uh-oh. And let's see what else we have here. And more interesting ones here. All right. Looks like a likeness there. Can't really tell. Is that Jefferson Davis? I believe it is. Anyway, $50 and $20 down there at the very bottom. We have a $10 one. All right. And these are very unique here. And I don't understand the policy behind this. You found this throughout the history of our country, even with the United States here, is that many of these states would print their own money. And it seems kind of like it goes in conflict with the United States of America, the Confederate States of America. But it tells you here the state of Alabama. I don't know if you can read that there very well. State of Alabama. And that's for a $100 note. I mean, why would you need to have that in the state of Alabama when you have, Confederate states? I don't know. All of the state of Alabama and $3 $100 bills there. Some of these are torn. And I like this. It's kind of neat, too. I mentioned to you just a few seconds ago, we had very little in the way of coins. And notice here, this is for 50 cents. 50 cents, 25 cents here. This is state of Alabama, by the way. And another 50 cents right here. And we go down here to the bottom here, another 50 cents right there. So anyway, that's kind of fascinating with that. All right, now, while I'm on the subject here, and this doesn't deal with the Civil War, But I ran across this, and this is an old letter, and it's dated 1832, and it's a letter that's written to a General James Blair. It's a couple of pages here. I'm not going to try to read this for you because it's too hard to read for one. But it's an old letter dating back, almost 200 years. And I looked this up. There was a James Blair. In fact, he was a general during the War of 1812. He's from South Carolina, from the Waxhaws area. 6'6", as a matter of fact, and was known for his wrestling abilities, whatever. And I also ran across this, and I like this very, very much too. And I collect some of these old diplomas. And when I first got this, I wasn't really sure which one, what it was. I couldn't read it very well. This dates back to 1823, so it's over 200 years old. It's 201 years old. And if you look at the top here, it tells you it was Nashville Female Academy. And I looked this up later, and yes, indeed, there was a very popular female academy at Nashville, and that's what it's known as. And I think Belmont Mansion is where the campus is located today. But it's hard to read this. I cannot read the first name here, but it's Elisa Phillips here, and it tells you down at the bottom there that she has completed all requirements for graduation, and it dated in December of 1823. All right, so anyway, that's just a short presentation here showing you some of my personal things. I'm very proud of this, and like I said, they're passed along by my daughter and her children or whoever. Anyway, all righty, thank you very much for your attention.